Okay, well, I just thought we'd spend some time today looking at organizational strategies for your paper. So to start with, I thought we should look at a list. Imagine this is a list of things that you need to do this week. Your bedroom needs help, you're babysitting every day, or you have practice for a sport. You have several assignments due this week. Your clothes need washing. You have social commitments. You have money issues and time issues, things you need to do, things you want to do, and chores around the house, and family obligations, plus a variety of other things you need to do. Now, if you were to take this list and just start checking them off one at a time, you'd find that it was probably not the best strategy for getting everything done on time. Some things you need to plan ahead for. Some things can happen rather quickly. You might bunch things together that would all have to do with the same area or place that you had to be. But going straight through the list is not the best organizational strategy, just like going straight through all of the sources you found for your research paper is not the best strategy. So, here we have a list of 5 different organizational patterns or strategies you can use in a research essay. The examples I'm going to give you are paragraphs only because I don't want to have to read through an entire essay to show you the strategy. So just remember when we're talking about these strategies, they apply to the entire essay, not just the paragraph that I'm going to give you an example of. But if you take a look here, you'll find that one pattern is descriptive, and this is the one that happens when the author lists the characteristics, describes, using examples in a logical way, a scene or a something that has characteristics that could be described. That didn't make a lot of sense, but there you go. There is a strategy even to that where you would go from top to bottom, inside to outside, general to specific, and you might use transitions like these. The research question that I'm going to show you an example of is, what is the meaning of the Olympic symbol? And so it's going to describe the symbol using those techniques. Okay, the second one is sequence. This is where the author lists things in numerical or chronological order. Chronological is time by time, and it will show you an example of that too. And then these 3 are probably the most common for a research paper. Either a comparison contrast, how 2 things are alike and different, how cause and effect, what is the reason for something happening, or what are the effects of something happening. It could be cause and effect or effect and causes. But the author will talk about that, organizing by most important to least or least to most important. So even within that structure, they have a logical reason why they're doing it that way. And then the problem solution is the final one. And this one, a lot of you will be doing where you state that there's a problem and you will investigating what kind, how to solve that problem. And you'll investigate that in your research. So let's take a look briefly at the descriptive one, and then we'll go down the list and look at some of the others. So, the descriptive paper, let me clear all those nice marks that I made here. Okay, the descriptive paper. This paper has an organizational strategy that involves it going from broad to narrow. It goes from the rings, the 5 interlocking rings. So we're looking at the large Olympic symbol, if you can remember what that looks like. And then you're looking at each individual ring and how it represents something. And then you're not just looking at the rings, you're looking at the color of the rings. So that's looking even closer. And then even closer yet, how each one of the colors represent a flag from every country. So it goes from broad, looking at the whole symbol, to just the rings, to the colors of the rings, and to the color of one, going from large to narrow. And that's the organizational strategy of this descriptive piece of writing. The second piece of writing we're going to look at is the sequencing. And like I said, this can be chronological, and it is in this case. This is talking about how the Olympic Games began and how they've developed till today. And you can see there are key words here: 776 BC, before Common Era, and then AD, and then it talks about how there were no games for 1,500 years, and then again in 1896, and then what happened in 1900, and then it continued on every 4 years till today, and will hopefully continue for many more to come. So it's gone from BC all the way to really the future, talking about the future. That's chronological. All right, the next one is the comparison contrast, and you'll see there's some key words here. It's very unlike modern Olympics, very unlike the ancient games. There was, and then some examples: no swimming, no females, that kind of thing. And then it goes to alike and talks about the things that are similar. Javelin and discus are still there. Cheating, professionalism, and nationalism are still part of the disgrace that occasionally comes up in the Olympic Games. So on this one, again, could be an entire essay where you talk about how the modern Olympics are very different than the original ancient ones, and you can find lots more information in that, and you could develop categories of how they were different, and then go to how they're alike, and again talk about categories of how they're alike, building up an entire essay instead of just this one paragraph. But the paragraph is your example. Next, cause and effect, or effect and cause, and this has talks about why so many people attend the event. So here's the reasons for it. And you can see the reasons are listed. There's tradition first, then escape, and then national pride. And after each one, there are examples. So tradition, the name and the torch and the flame remind people of the ancient games. Escape, daily life is more interesting after watching the Olympics, and you get away from your problems. And then national pride, and talks about how we root for our team, and people feel good when there are national medal counts and things like that. So again, this could be an entire essay where you talk about the reasons why something has occurred and give several reasons, developing them, each individual reason in a separate paragraph or maybe even two. And then the final one I want to talk about is the problem solution essay. And this one, again, problem with modern Olympics. The problem was they were big and expensive, and you have to build a bunch of stuff, and it only lasts 2 weeks. So this writer does this all in the same paragraph, and then gives us the solution in the same paragraph. For your essay, you would establish the problem, and it might have several paragraphs of establishing the problem. The expense, the coordination, the fields, the housing, all of that. And then go into the solution, and you'd have several paragraphs of different solutions that are possible. But yet, this would be the organization, setting up the problem and then setting up examples of solutions, and maybe coming out with more the recommended one that you've discovered. So, just to clarify what I've been saying here, there are lots of different ways to organize an essay, but yours should not just simply be a list of sources and what each source said, but actually should have some kind of a thought behind it as to what kind of overall strategy you would use. And just as a side note, don't forget that each paragraph can also have an organizational strategy like the ones I showed you. Hope this helps, and let me know if you have any questions.